Bugi Joshin Metotam Rira Vinci Nende Gampadi Sangye Shindu Mete Owagi Roku Nanda Shinla Chiparsho Idam Gururana Mandala Kamniyatayami Sangye Chedan Soki Chonamla Chanchu Bardu Dagni Kyapsuchi Daki Chenyen Gibe Sunamki Dola Benchir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Chedan Soki Chonamla Chanchu Bardu Dagni Kyapsuchi Dagi Chenyen Gibe Sunamgi Rola Benchir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Chedan Soki Chonamla Chanchu Bardu Dagni Kyapsuchi Dagi Chenyen Gibe Sunamgi Dola Penchir Sangye Druparsho. All right. Oh, let me put my screen up.
Uh-oh, did it turn off?
I didn't put it up yet, I think.
Or can you press that little button under the red light?
This one?
Mm-hmm. And then press it twice.
Yeah, on and on.
Mm-hmm. Off and on.
Smart TV. The head of Samsung made an $18 million donation to the president's friend.
Really?
He's under investigation now. Anyway, those are the good old days. We didn't cover. I'm just kind of making you familiar with the database, and we saw yesterday how important it is that we saved a line of a Om, right? Somebody's explaining Om from a Tantra, and the guy who quoted it, or somebody, missed a line. By the way, he missed a line because he thought it was 4 lines, and it was 5. So 99 times out of 100 it's 4 lines, and it was 5 lines. Because the first line was, I'll tell you the meaning of Om. And then he did a 4-line poem. So we're going to go back to that. But so yesterday we went through there's 4 main parts of the database. 5. One is, the Kangyo, and we talked about that yesterday. And that, Jigme's made good progress. She's about a third of the way through it, giving them English names, which is sort of historical. That will last for thousands of years, hopefully. And we're kind of lucky to be in the first generation. The third or fourth generation won't be so exciting. They'll be doing the minor works, You get to do the best ones. Tengyur, we went to those 15 categories of the Tengyur yesterday. We haven't even had time to name the categories yet. So the strategy with the Tengyur was that we started fixing all the Sanskrit names from the Tibetan, and because we want to reconstruct the Sanskrit, and no one's ever tried that seriously. So we wanted to build the Kangyur and Tengyur again in Sanskrit, and about 90% of it is missing. We had a really cool idea. Nowadays you can find as much online as you can in the villages of India. So we have a team in Varanasi who's very good, 2nd generation Sanskrit finder. And we have a team in South India looking there. So the team in South India has done 5 million scans. And the team in North India is typing the Sanskrit classics of Buddhism. But they're rare, because they were mostly destroyed when the Mughals came to India around 800, starting in 800. They destroyed all the Buddhist monasteries. So we're trying to reconstruct it. To reconstruct it, we have to have a database of the names spelled correctly. Because what happens is our team goes to villages, and in India, there was no wood blocks because the weather doesn't permit it. They would just rot in a few decades. So they write things by hand. They copy things by hand. And then you get hundreds of different editions because people, after hundreds of years, people write it differently. And then families in India tend to keep those books in their house, in the village. And they don't put them in libraries because the librarians in India are very corrupt and lazy, and they just rot in the libraries. Or they get stolen. It's a big problem in Russia. One of the directors when I was in Russia, we were in Russia for 12 years, cataloging, and a lot of the books disappeared. And finally they arrested the director. He kept going to Japan and selling them, and Mongolia has the same problem. So, partly we want to catalog them quickly so they can't be stolen, so we know if they're stolen. And the Japanese like to collect them, they can't read them. They just keep them in their basement. So, anyway, the first thing we did with the Tengyur was try to spell all the Sanskrit correctly. Because there's 4,000 books, so if if our team finds a book in a village, they need a database. They need to type the name into the database and see if it's a Buddhist book that we need. And to do that, it has to be spelled correctly. So we were concentrating on spelling those 3,700 names correctly. And we've got like 20 done. And so it's just like massive. So we don't have enough money, we don't have enough people. Okay, but we're working on it. We kind of just gave up and told the people in India, if you find anything in a village, just show it to us. But we found some very valuable books. And as I said, for DCI level 8, I used some of them in the leadership training, because Nagarjuna's, the Tibetans were translating some of Nagarjuna's works in a way that didn't reflect the original Sanskrit. And the original Sanskrit was more interesting, and he was using more interesting words. Okay, anyway, so Tengyur's a little bit behind. We need more money, we need more people. Sumbum is in good shape, pretty good shape. These are books written by Tibetans starting in about 1000 AD or 900 AD. And I'll just talk about that. You should know the structure. It'd be good if you just heard it once. Okay, so no one has ever done a subject cataloging of the Sumbum correctly or accurately or comprehensively. TBRC is extremely weak in that. You can't look up stuff by subject on TBRC. They don't have those skills, and they don't have that. They haven't bothered to do it. They have very primitive divisions. But we worked on it for 30 years, and I think it's good now. So these are the basic categories of Buddhism. Vinaya, okay? And then epistles, meaning letters. Most famous letters are like Nagarjuna's letters and things like that. These are commentaries to Nagarjuna letters. Jayag means usually monastic constitutions and stuff like that. We found Saint-Romain's in Russia. It was lost. It was burned. And it provides for the design of the kamtans, the colleges of the monastery, and the rules, ancient rules for the governance of the monastery. So somebody who's interested in government would find those documents interesting. Kadampa, the early Buddhists. We're pretty weak on that. We don't have all the books in. These are lineage trees of lamas. in Russia, we typed in 141,000 colophons. So that will enable your students or your grand students to create accurate lineage trees of who taught who. And that's useful sometimes because you can, if you're missing something, you can go to the person's lama or to their student. Okay, so that's really comprehensive, but it hasn't been used yet. Nobody's used that information yet. Okay, TBRC is very strong in lineage trees because Gene Smith was fascinated by the subject, and he spent a lot of time on that. That was his main thing, and he could recite them. And he was amazing. These are lojongs. We did pretty well on those. Okay, those are all the lojongs. And I think we've captured almost all of them. There's probably some more that we haven't gotten yet, but the reason we have so many is mainly because Trijang Rinpoche collected them. He was a book collector. And I found a lot of books in his personal library. I found the Tenrim Chenmu in his personal library, one of the copies. These are usually pretty brief songs of praise of people. They're usually hagiographies.
Choreographies?
They are, yeah. And they're very eloquent, they're, what do you call it? Flowery and not much information. So they're not really useful, except once in a while somebody like some kappa down here will write, he'll disguise a philosophy work as a praise of the Buddha or something. And so those are useful. These are rituals which are not tantric. Mainly not tantric, so this is something by me. This was my somebody misspelled, put my wrong years. Oh no, that's another story. But but these are like prayers when people pass away, or when you're building a new temple, or a new thing, or protection. Dongchu is for Tsongkhapa Day. Okay, but the tantric rituals are not in there. So we tried to keep the database separate. There's the tantric part of the database, and there's the open part of the database. And we didn't know how to treat tantric books. I'm not allowed to show tantric books to someone who doesn't have a proper initiation. That's one of my tantric vows. So we compromised. We decided. TBRC doesn't even try. You can get any book you want. You can get books on how to kill people. Well, actually, those are the only books he didn't put up. But all tantric books are there. They're just indiscriminate. We used to ask people, do you have a tantric initiation? And they had to sign a piece of paper and send it to us. And we figure if they lie, that's their karma, but we can't go checking if they, really got initiation or not. So I think we should still try to keep that policy if we can. These are religious histories. One of the best is right here, if you're interested. It's Bhutan's history of Buddhism in India. And it's one of the only, there are no histories from India. They don't exist. They weren't interested much in history. Bhutan, who organized the Kangyur Tengyur, he tried to write a history, and it's some of it's pretty crazy, but some of it's good. So but there are very good histories of Buddhism in Tibet. Like there's a very great book about the history of Yamantaka practice in Tibet from the first days. So if you're really interested in Yamantaka, it's like this thick, and it's very cool. And then there's the Blue Annals, which was translated, one of the first Tibetan books translated into English.
I don't know if I could bring it in.
Yeah, by Yuri Reri, whose name was changed to George. And his father was Nikolai Reri, who was a great painter, who went to Tibet. And then he brought his sons up in Tibet and in northern India, Kunu Valley. And then one of his sons became a great translator. But that translation is like very primitive, but it's a great first translation. So history of Niguma is in there. I took it from there and stuff like that. You can find some pretty cool histories in there. This is Madhyamika. It's really cool, and you know, Nick and I worked on this division of the subjects, and it's either by subject or it's by original Sanskrit book. So you can look up, for example, Utpala's text is in here, for example. These are a genre called Dati, which are books about how to meditate on emptiness. So you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cool, sexy books about how to meditate on emptiness. Okay. This is Mahamudra, open Mahamudra. There's a secret Mahamudra. So secret Mahamudra wouldn't be in here. That'll be under Tantra. Then these are all the various commentaries on different books. This is a specific genre called How to Develop Shamatha and Vipassana. Okay. Chang'e, you know. This is a subject developed by Jetsun especially, because he was disturbed by the differences between the schools and how unclear it was between the schools. So he devoted a lot of his life to clean up the schools.
Indian schools?
The 4 Indian schools, yeah. And then he wrote a book of comparison. And he tried to figure out which teachings were literal and which teachings were just changed because the audience wasn't ready. So, and it's a huge subject, and as you can see, many Tibetan lamas since then have created a tradition, and it's very rich. And we don't have a Chang'e book in our repertoire. You know, we should put one in there. You know, there's one translation of Tsongkhapa's root text which I think is unsatisfactory, and we should do it over. Geshe Thich Rinchen taught it from cover to cover, except for one part that I did. Chilen is cool. These are recordings of when students got together with the Lama, and the Lama says, "Does anybody have a question?" And then the students will ask the Lama a question. And the most famous one to me is Muchu Dharmabhadra, and it has a few hundred questions in it. And they were carved, but they're all different subjects. So I spent like a few months and I split them up. And I grouped them by subject, and I put them in the correct subjects. So all his answers about Vajrayogini practice are together, and all his answers about Vinaya are together. And it was a lot of fun for me. So I had to read the whole thing and figure out where to put each question. And they're amazing. They're just amazing. There's a one lama, many students, probably many years of questions, all in one book. So then I split them up and put them in the correct places, you know. And Trijang Rinpoche did a pretty nice Chilen, and one of the questioners is Ken Rinpoche, which is kind of cool. This is a guide about holy places in India. This is Master Ben's subject here. And once you digest the smaller one, we'll go to some bigger ones. If you want to keep on the same subject, you don't have to. These are extremely useful. These are, in Tibet, it was considered important to prove that you had gotten some teaching from a good Lama. So those records are called senyik. Sen means to listen, yik means a record. So it's very useful for us because we can see who influenced whom. They'll say, like Pabon Rinpoche's senyik is very extensive. and he will trace back his lineage to the beginning. So, in creating a lineage tree, parampara, you can go all the way back to India. And it's very beautiful, It's very useful. We did these big lineage charts. I finished 2 of them or 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
They're partly based on that. This is grammar. If you have time, it's like, what do you call it? An indulgence. And Rinpoche insisted that I memorize the root text on grammar and before he would teach me anything. And I think Nick started on. Did you do the whole thing? I don't know.
Most of it. Kind of.
But you're gonna get it if you just sit in this room for a couple of years. You'll get the whole grammar thing. You can either study grammar or you can absorb grammar by Geshe Michael yelling at you. And I think the second one is probably more useful. Look at all the lam rims we have. Okay. So we've done pretty well on the lam rims. Each one of these is by a mostly separate lamas. Okay. This is fine arts. It's not very strong on that. Why is there lam rim? This is how to paint the masters of the lam rim. It's a book on how to paint them, or So those are this is how to build stupas.
That book on painting was by Nutra Dhamma.
I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
And these are like how to build temples, how to build stupas. Okay. These are calendars. Gene Smith was kind of crazy about collecting old calendars. They're printed every year in Tibet. And the long calendars are like crazy. It's like, don't tie your left shoe with your third finger on this day. And, and you can get very superstitious about it. I keep them for, anyway, I used to save them. These are commentaries to the sutras, direct commentaries, like the words of the Dharmakaya Sutra, and it's thin. Tibetans of our lineage, no Tibetans spend a lot of time just explaining the wording of sutras. Okay. What's that?
Categories. Are these our categories?
Yeah, we invented these categories by sutra, and they're thin. You see, there's usually only one. There's the Dharmakaya. There's only one commentary. That's 2 different printings of it, and it's thin. There's not much there. Choni Lama's one of the only people who was interested in that subject. This is Stanley. All of these authors wrote major books on the Abhidharma. You're talking 1,000 pages, 2,000 pages. Okay, most of these are. Somebody who really gets into Abhidharma is a real nerd, and it's thousands of pages. Real Abhidharma studies are something that takes a long time. But if you do it, you have a foundation that will serve you for the rest of your life. If you get it early, if you get it young, if you get it too old, it's just a waste of time. Okay. Personal practice. Don't drink alcohol, don't smoke, how to do confessions, how to study, how to fast. How to give up tobacco. Tamaka is tobacco. They got it late, like the 1800s. Those are just non-tantric personal stuff. How to meditate on shamatha. Okay, that would be an interesting book. This is lower middle way school. In Tibet, the lower middle way school is called Perfection of Wisdom. In the Kagyu and Tengyur, it means all wisdom books. So you might find Mind Only, you might find Svatantrika, you might find Prasangika in Parchin, in Perfection of Wisdom, if you go to the Kagyu and Tengyur. But by the time you get to the Sumbum, Bolo Bolo Mido only means lower middle way school. Okay. And mainly Abhisammalankara. And it's 75 pages and we spent 12 years on it. Okay, the first 12 years of the Geshe course are 75 pages. And we memorize it. And, you saw the whole Wheel of Life teaching comes from one line, 2 lines, okay? So it's like a fungus, like it just exploded. And these are all wonderful subjects, amazing subjects, okay? We could spend a long time in here, The Four Truths is an amazing subject, and I don't know. This is an amazing subject. I spent a couple of years on this with Rinpoche. That's like the 5 paths, the 3 tracks. This is a major text on bodhicitta. Look at these. Okay, each Lama wrote 8 volumes. Each one is about 2,000 pages. Okay, on the perfection of this thing. So it's amazing.
On the sutras or on Panchen?
On the Abhisambhara mainly, But every one of those is major. This is miscellaneous stuff I didn't know where to put. Okay. Our cataloging of Tantra has never been matched by anybody in history. Nobody, And it took many years. But it's by deity. Okay? I believe there's about 150 deities. And no one's ever done this. So it's pretty awesome. Nick worked a lot on this. And so if you go to Vajrayogini, for example, Jingang Yu Jammo, then you have commentaries, Poa, Guru Yoga, how to do the retreats, how to do the empowerment, how to draw the mandala, how to practice with a spiritual partner, how to do Seichu, how to the mantra. There's books, a whole books. This is how to do the fire offering. Okay, just the fire offering we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have over 10 texts on how to do the fire offering. So that's amazing. That's a good piece of work. About half of Buddhist literature is Tantra. And in America it has a very bad name because of some Indian people who turn it into sex things and killing chickens and stuff like that. And it has a very bad name in this country. We don't even want to use the word Tantra. We use Vajrayana. But it's a beautiful, huge system. Thousands of books. And brilliant, beautiful, stunning. So how it became something bad, I don't know. It's bad karma. It's really bad karma. But it's exquisite. It's like all the rock and roll songs ever made. It's unbelievable. You can spend your whole life just, we'll do Vajrayana after you have a good foundation. And okay? We'll translate some of those books. There's thousands of books waiting to be translated. And they're all unbelievable. Okay? Beautiful, stunning. Okay? These are biographies. And we worked hard on these. These are biographies of lamas. Okay? And we worked really hard on that. Normally, the number one student of a lama will write a biography of them later in his life or her life. Okay.
It's 7:30, just so you know.
Okay. Mind only school. Look how thin it is. Okay, mind only school. Very thin, not much. Sanskrit, astrology, medicine, poetry. Adam's subject. Here's all the duras there are. These are treatments of Dharmakirti and Dignaga. And not that. These are pretty amazing.
These are treatment means.
Commentary. And this is commentaries on Pramanavartika. And those are huge. Those are big. So those are deep, and those are extremely difficult. Some of the hardest thing to translate. And then these are dictionaries or things like that. When you see this 6370, that's somebody asked Nguchadara Bhattara a question about a word. And I put them in there. I split them up. Okay. Somebody said, what's car mean? Something like that. Okay?
That's Milton's video.
Okay. Yeah, so you have to, that's,
Carved dictionary.
so you have to know how to navigate, you have to know how to search for things you're looking for in that structure, and that's finished, and that took many, many years. So you can go straight to all the Abhidharma books, but you cannot go to all the books of Tsongkhapa easily. And that's what Phil's working on. So we continue to fund his work in the hopes that one day you can search by Lama, by place, by time, by subject, all mixed together. But in the meantime, we have this subject categories, but we don't have by Lama, and we don't have by area, and we don't have by century. And that's just more time, more money. It's all money. It all comes down to money. How many people can you pay? Nobody got paid until 3 years ago or something, on this side of the ocean. Okay, so, and we've made a lot of progress since Dr. Wu started helping us. We made a lot of progress because people didn't have to have other jobs. They could get a starvation salary. Okay.